In this video, I'm going to show you how to create an annotated bibliography in MLA format. Stay tuned and watch the video all the way to the end, because you're doing this assignment specifically for me in a Canvas discussion forum, which means there are a few things I'm going to exempt you from. So I'm going to work through the entire document and how you would normally format this if you were turning it in on paper, and then at the end I'll go over a few things you don't have to worry about for me. Let's begin. You're looking at an annotated bibliography, and an annotated bibliography is a list of works that you feel you might use in your paper. You'll provide works cited entries and then a brief paragraph under each works cited entry that says what the work consists of and how you might use it. This is different from a works cited list that you must include at the end of a paper. A works cited list is specifically a list of works cited entries to the sources that you actually cited in the paper. A key difference here would be that you do not have to include the annotated bibliography at the end of your research paper, but you absolutely must include a works cited list. So, with that in mind, do not submit this annotated bibliography at the end of your research paper unless the teacher asks for it. You'll notice in the upper right-hand corner I've got a proper header with my last name and page number. Over to the left, there's an MLA heading that includes the student name, instructor name, course title, and an MLA date. There's a centered title that consists of what it is, an annotated bibliography, colon, and then my subject. Of course, your subject will be different. We then include a proper MLA works cited entry. It is using a hanging indent. And since this is a peer-reviewed journal found in a college database, it must have author name, article title, journal title, volume issue, the date it was published, the page numbers of the article, the database title, URL or DOI, and the access date is optional. Now, I want to draw your attention specifically to the database name. This is crucial for this assignment because you are demonstrating your ability to navigate our college's online library databases, and the only way to really prove that is to include the database name in your works cited entry. Otherwise, it will look like you just went to Google and took a shortcut. So, no database name, no credit. Be sure to include it. Under the works cited entry in an annotated bibliography, you will include a brief paragraph. Now, different teachers will have different expectations for the content of this paragraph. Something to notice is that it's not indented at all, it's all left aligned. My expectations are pretty specific. I want you to give me a sentence or two that tells me about the specific content of the source. For example, I've told you here, Cavalcoresi traces the roots of early 20th century music on the continent back to Wagner. And then I want you to give me a couple of sentences that tell me very specifically how you think this source might prove useful in your research paper. Now remember, different teachers will expect different things in this annotated part of the assignment, so be sure to pay attention to your teacher's expectations. Now notice my citations are in alphabetical order by the last name. This one begins with C, the next one, Fairchild, begins with F. And I've got my proper MLA works cited entry. It's indented. It includes the database name. I've removed the hyperlink from the URL. I've got an access date. And then below it, I've got a brief annotation. Again, I tell you the content of the source and how I plan on using it. So this is just a very basic 2-entry annotated bibliography. They can get pretty long. Depending on what semester you're taking this course, the number of annotations could be different. So make sure and read the instructions. Don't just assume that it's 2. Some semesters I require more. Let's take a look at some of the highlights of this video and some of the things that I'm going to exempt you from for this specific assignment. First and foremost, don't include this annotated bibliography in your paper unless the teacher asks you to. I don't want it. I want a works cited entry page, and that's something that all of your teachers are really going to want. Normally, you would set up the annotated bibliography just like an MLA paper with the heading and the header and things like that. But since you're doing this in Canvas as a discussion forum, well, the header, the heading, the indenting, and the URL are going to prove to be very cumbersome. Don't worry about those things. Really, I'm just looking for a proper source citation without the indenting or URL and the brief annotation. But I'm not worried about the indenting, really, the header, the heading. Now, you have to provide a citation for each source. You're going to arrange them in alphabetical order. You absolutely must include the database. That's how you prove that you got it from our college's online library and your access date. I'm fine with you including the URL. I say it's optional for one reason. Let's take a look at the two sources in the paper. Notice Calvacoresi unfolds quite nicely. It fits neatly into these 3 lines and the indenting looks really good. But we come down to Fairchild and it gets a little messy. Notice after Academic 1 file there's this big long blank space. That's because the URL is so long. This is why I exempt you from the URL, really. If you provide all of the other information correctly, I don't need the URL. It just muddies the waters. So that's why I'm exempting you from it. Other teachers are not going to exempt you from this, and be aware of that. If you do include the URL, always remove the hyperlink. Lastly, under each citation in an annotated bibliography, you must include a brief paragraph. Now, the content of that paragraph will change depending on the teacher's expectation. For my assignment, you'll give me a specific summary of the source content and some commentary on how you believe the source will pan out, how it will be useful in your paper. Now, of course, you might change your mind later and find something else useful about it, and that's fine. You're not forced to use it the way you claim you're going to use it in an annotated bib. The point of the annotated bib is to show that you're finding sources and you're thinking about them. You're not just going into the databases or to Google and grabbing the first few things that you find that pop up. I hope this video helps. If you have any questions about the annotated bibliography, catch me before or after class, or shoot me a quick email.